Welcome to Banfield on this Friday night, everybody. I'm Jesse Weber in for Ashleigh. Now, you might be saying Friday night. It's going to be a slow night, not a lot going on. You would be wrong. We got a packed program for you tonight because who's ready for Karen Read 2.0? Prosecutors near Boston are making good on their promise to retry Karen Read after a judge declared a mistrial this month. So what are the chances that this whole trial will start again from square one? Well, here's a giant hint. The judge set a date for it this week. Now, that doesn't mean it's 100% going to happen, but the wheels are turning. Some pressing questions we're going to have here, right? Was there a cold-blooded murder? Was there a cover-up? By the way, if Karen Read is innocent of killing her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, then someone else did it. Isn't that alarming? We're going to talk about that. Then, Justin Timberlake's drunk driving case, when it went in front of a judge today, Timberlake, he wasn't there, but his high-powered attorney was. He says the whole case should be tossed out, that the cops made some critical errors in documents, and that Timberlake wasn't even intoxicated. We got his full response. We're going to break it all down with the king of celebrity news, Perez Hilton, in just a little bit. And then the Black Swan murder trial, the moment that we have been waiting for, the former ballerina accused of fatally shooting her estranged husband. She took the stand to give her side of the story. And I would tell you what, a surprising moment unfolded during cross-examination when the prosecutor asked her to reenact the shooting.
He was making fighting motions. I don't know. I'm not a fighter. I don't know.
Okay.
It was scary.
Did he have his hands in fists?
Not at that point. They were I don't know.
Was he coming at you like this?
And he lunged at me. He came very quickly.
Okay, so he lunged. Was his fist up when he lunged?
I don't remember.
What do you think about that? What do you think the jury thinks about that? We're going to show you more of that moment coming up. But first, Karen Read tonight is a free woman. And she should be free, because whether you personally feel she's guilty or innocent of killing her police officer boyfriend, John O'Keefe, this is exactly how our system of law enforcement, prosecution, defense, trials, justice system, that's how it's set up to work, and it should. Karen Read was arrested. She was charged with multiple offenses, including second-degree murder. She was put on trial before a jury of her peers. And that trial ended not with a verdict, but with a judge deciding that the jury could not and would not ever reach an agreement. Now, the judge on July 1st declared a mistrial, and Karen Read was free to go. But is it over? Maybe, because now comes the what now. And a quick refresher on the Karen Read case. So Boston policeman John O'Keefe, he was found dead in a snowbank outside of a house where he attended a party, or maybe attended a party. And that was in January of 2022. Prosecutors say that O'Keefe's girlfriend, Karen Read, struck him with her Lexus SUV while under the influence and left him to die. Read's defense team says that didn't happen. No. That John O'Keefe was killed by someone at that house party, and then Karen Read was set up to take the fall. Trial lasted a month. Supporters of Karen Read were very vocal in the Boston suburb of Dedham, Massachusetts. And not only were they furious at what they saw as the prosecution of an innocent woman, but also at the alleged thin blue line cover-ups. And some of O'Keefe's fellow police officers were at the house party where he was last seen alive. So one popular theory in the court of public opinion is that whoever is responsible for John O'Keefe's death is being helped by law enforcement, that it's a cover-up. Well, this week, the same judge who declared a mistrial circled a date on the calendar, the 27th of January next year. She says that is when Karen Read will go on trial again. Now, of course, nothing is etched in stone. It's a scheduled trial date. There's a lot of variables that could throw a wrench into that timeline or potentially cancel any new trial altogether. And now there is something new we have to discuss. 2 more Massachusetts state troopers with ties to the Karen Read case are the subjects of an internal investigation. Both Detective Lieutenant Brian Tully and Sergeant Yuri Buchanek, that's a tough name, Buchanek. They testified during the highly publicized second-degree murder trial. State police officials aren't saying why the 2 troopers are under investigation, but they are in the chain of command of one trooper who was suspended without pay for his conduct during Karen Read's murder investigation. So clearly a lot to talk about, and I want to bring in, oh, look, it's Sarah Azari, criminal trial attorney, NewsNation legal analyst. Always a happy face. I love seeing Sarah. So Sarah, good to see you. Everyone's going to be back in court. Everyone's going to be back in court in 2 weeks from today, August 9th, oral arguments, because the defense moved to dismiss the second-degree murder and leaving the scenes charges because they say jurors came to a consensus that they voted not guilty. So you tell me, is that going to happen? Those charges going to be thrown out?
Denied next, okay? And I'll tell you why. Because 3 or 4 jurors that they found, first of all, this is very perplexing to me, and I'll explain why. But these 3 or 4 people cannot speak for 12 minds, 12 unanimous minds. And, you know, as trial lawyers, we watch jurors like a hawk. We watch their body language. We listen to every word that they utter. And if there's any sign or inkling that they're struggling, we ask the court, the judge, to pull the jury. The defense didn't do that. And now they've come up mysteriously with these handful of jurors saying that these 4 people are now going to come and say that all 12 people were going to reach a not guilty. It's very perplexing to me. And let me tell you something else, too, Jesse, as someone who's dealt with a lot of jurors. Jurors are ecstatic about reporting a verdict to the court. They're not going to hold it back. You know, if they reach a verdict, it's like they've done their job to the fullest extent. And they, you know, for them to reach a not guilty and not just tell the court. Could they be confused? I mean, the fact that the judge is holding a hearing on this, is that normal? Well, look, I mean, it's not typically you do hold a hearing when there's a motion. You want to flesh out all the arguments, be heard. Obviously, the defense might want to just make a record for appeal, you know, so you can't just kind of put it away and say, well, this is a lost cause, so I'm not going to even hear it. But clearly there's a signal here, Jesse, from the court. You know, trial date is set, a pretrial date is set. So, like I said, denied next is what this judge is thinking. So let's talk about that for a second, because this other big update is the investigation of these 2 additional police officers. What could be the impact, A, on if there is a new trial? Do they testify? Can they testify? Does the jury know about these investigations? And B, I think this is the more important question. If now you're having 3 officers under investigation, do you even have a trial anymore? Right. That is the biggest hurdle for the prosecution. The fact that she is going to get retried, 1,000%. Why? Because of that stupid conspiracy theory. Because the defense has now put the prosecution in a position where O'Keefe is the state. O'Keefe is a state trooper. They now have to retry Karen Reed, because if they don't, it's almost like they're acquiescing to this conspiracy. And so we're starting to see how it backfires. And I've been saying this is really stupid from the very beginning. But that is the biggest problem, is this shoddy, biased investigation with Proctor, who's almost about to get fired finally, now these other state troopers. I don't know how the prosecution is going to get around that, because typically trial number 2, you try to perfect the case, do it differently, do it better. But an investigation is something that is a constant. It doesn't change. And look, we don't know exactly why they are being investigated. Could it be that they received these very problematic text messages from Trooper Proctor and didn't bring it to anyone's attention? Maybe they commented about it. Maybe it had nothing to do with them trying to cover up anything, but just them not acting even remotely professional. But we will see where that goes. Here's my question to you. If this goes to a second trial, and that would be something, who is this a bigger challenge for? Because let's be honest, despite the conspiracy theories, despite the fact that the jury, that's maybe not fair, conspiracy theory, it was the defense, despite the fact that you had a hung jury, there was, in my opinion, some strong prosecution evidence, right? There was the idea that Karen Reed immediately knew where John O'Keefe's body was when they were looking for him. The fact that the GPS data on his phone indicated he didn't enter the house party that night. And the fact that the injuries, they brought out experts that said the injuries were consistent with being hit by a car. So who would benefit in a new trial, and what are the challenges? Well, I think on both sides, right? I think for the prosecution, I would drop the murder two. The evidence is just not sufficient to support murder two. I would stick to manslaughter, and that is something that I think she could very well be found guilty of. I would also streamline the case and not take 4 weeks with all these miscellaneous irrelevant witnesses. Stick to 2 weeks. For the defense, I would just focus on reasonable doubt and not go down the rabbit hole of conspiracy. Yeah. The challenge for the prosecution, Jesse, is the investigation. It stinks, and it's not something that they can redo or do better. And for the defense, I think, there are, like you said, those are really bad pieces of evidence, in addition to the handful of times she apparently, whatever you want to call it, admission, she said, I hit him. There's different interpretations of that, but it's still out there.
I can't believe I'm going to say this. Sarah Azari and I are agreeing. My gosh, what is happening on this Friday night? But it's amazing.
So good to be in the club with you, Jesse.
Sarah, have a great weekend. It was great seeing you. Thanks so much for coming on.
Good too.
Okay, now I want to bring on, if anybody's been following this case, you'll know exactly who he is. Aiden Kearney. He's a blogger, social media personality who runs the popular website and YouTube channel TB Daily News. Aiden covered this Karen Reed trial with a thoroughness that few media outlets even came close to matching, sharing day-to-day developments with his large online audience. He joins us right now. Aiden, thanks for coming on. So you've always made it crystal clear where you stood on this trial, that you strongly felt and feel Karen Reed was being set up for John O'Keefe's death. Your reaction to the judge scheduling a trial date next year?
I think it's good for Karen Reed that she scheduled it in January instead of October, because that gives the feds more time to do what they need to do, indict. It can only benefit the defense because, look what's happened since then. Since the trial has ended, Michael Proctor has been suspended without pay, and his two immediate supervisors, Brian Tully and Yuri Buchanan, are both under internal affairs investigation. The longer this goes, the better it is for Karen Reed.
To be clear, you say you're saying charges being brought against these troopers?
There's a federal investigation into the investigation itself. Unprecedented. The FBI is not going to waste 18 months of their valuable time and resources into an investigation if they don't believe there's smoke there, if they don't believe there's fire behind the smoke. And there's a reason that they gave. Where do you think all these text messages from Michael Proctor came from? They came from the FBI investigation. The FBI knows what we all know, that Karen Reed was not hit by a car. She said conspiracy theory before, the stupid conspiracy theory. The stupid conspiracy theory is that the injuries on John O'Keefe's body came from a vehicle. If you look at those injuries on him and said that came from a vehicle, you're the conspiracy theorist. Well, and you also said before that that the experts said that John's injuries came from the car.
Right.
Quite the opposite. There wasn't a single expert that said that. The two FBI the two guys, the ARC experts, who both have PhDs, who both have testified in thousands of these cases, they were the only experts who testified. Both unequivocally said the opposite of what you said, that John's injuries...
The state called their own experts to say that those injuries were consistent.
What expert was that?
But here's the point. Here's the point. I agree, and I agree with Sarah, and I said this before. I don't think the murder charge should be brought. I think that was a long stretch to say that Karen Reed killed John O'Keefe because there was a bad relationship. And I think there was a more plausible argument in my mind to say that she recklessly hit him, or she realized she hit him after the fact, or drunkenly hit him, and support a charge that way. But here's the part that I don't understand, and the prosecution can present evidence of that. And I don't want to put words in your mouth. Do you believe the state, maybe at least the police, don't want another trial? The defense clearly doesn't want one. So where is the pressure to retry? I can say I could see where the evidence comes from. They can try to get a conviction for manslaughter or something like that. But where do you think the pressure is to have a second trial?
They're just trying to placate the O'Keefe family. They know that they know that Karen Reed didn't do this. They're well aware of that. They just want to make it seem to the O'Keefe family that they're trying. See, we cared. We didn't completely screw this up. That the O'Keefe family doesn't go ahead and sue them, which they should. If that were my son or brother or family member or loved one who is in John O'Keefe's position, and the investigation into his death was treated like that, you best believe I would be suing them for completely screwing this up. They treated John, they found his body on Brian Albert's front lawn, and they didn't even bother going in that house. and seeing if everything was okay in there. They didn't even cordon off the crime scene. It was left completely unprotected all day long. A vagrant found on the street would get a more thorough investigation than John O'Keefe got. So all this is just the Commonwealth trying to placate the O'Keefe family and make it seem like they actually care about John O'Keefe. They don't. All right. Well, I tell you what, we will see if we get to that trial. It is a long way out. And I don't know. A lot of things could change. But I tell you what, Aiden Kearney, I really appreciate you taking the time. I want everybody to check out regular updates on TB Daily News. Blogs is Turtle Boy as well on YouTube. Thanks so much for coming on. All right. So coming up, Justin Timberlake's drunk driving case heads back to a Long Island courtroom. And Diddy gets the last thing on earth he needs right now. A purported link to the Tupac murder 28 years ago. As if that's not enough, by the way, Will Smith attempts a musical comeback after the slap seen around the world. You know who joins us? Perez Hilton to break it all down. Friday night, and what better time to talk about true crime celebrity style, right? Well, you might not be surprised to learn that Justin Timberlake's mugshot following his DWI arrest has already been turned into artwork. Really, it's hanging in a gallery on Long Island. But also, in a Long Island courtroom today, Timberlake's lawyer said that mugshot shouldn't even exist because Timberlake, he seems to suggest, was never drunk. In a statement, the lawyer writes, and I quote, "The most important fact to know about this case is that Justin was not intoxicated and should not have been arrested for DWI." His attorney, Ed Burke, also claimed the police made a number of significant errors, too. The singer himself was not in court today. He's on tour tonight in Poland, his lawyer in his place. We'll talk more about that. Next up on this celebrity docket, more bad news for Sean Diddy Combs, but this time it's not another allegation of sexual assault or trafficking. No, rather, instead, court documents filed last week in Las Vegas include a claim that Diddy paid $1 million for the attack that killed Tupac Shakur back in 1996. The claim, which Combs has adamantly denied before, was made by Dwayne Davis, a.k.a. Keefy D, who's behind bars tonight awaiting trial for his own role in Tupac's murder. And finally, who can forget Will Smith's alleged assault of Chris Rock on the Oscar stage back in 2022? Nobody forgot that one, right? Well, Smith just dropped a new song where he alludes to his struggles in the spotlight and tries to win back a few fans. And this, where I turn, of course, to Perez Hilton, the king of celebrity news with millions of followers on X, Facebook, Instagram. He also hosts the Perez Hilton Podcast. Thanks so much for joining me on this Friday night. So I want to start with Justin Timberlake. His lawyer called this criminal complaint procedurally defective. What does he say is wrong exactly?
I mean, I'm on the side of the prosecutor here who countered that these clerical errors, mistakes with paperwork, bear no weight on the facts of the case and in what actually happened, according to the prosecutor. But this excellent attorney for Justin Timberlake is trying to do everything possible to get the case dismissed before it moves any further. Yeah. And I think that probably is likely to happen. I mean, it is a first-time offense for Timberlake. I would imagine the worst that could happen in this situation is taking his license away and probation, perhaps some community service, which would probably do him good. I'm surprised they haven't even reached a deal yet, but we'll see what happens. He's currently on tour in Europe and has, not just through his lawyer, but of his own volition, with his own words, refused to accept any accountability, has even joked about his drunk driving arrest during a recent concert.
Yeah, and look, I think they're saying that the supervising officer didn't sign off on the paperwork. Again, it seems like prosecutors are going to continue with this. They might amend it. Here's the part that I don't understand. I'm curious your opinion. So do you think if the charge was dropped, would people even care? Because, look, it made the news. He was arrested. His mugshot's everywhere, now in an art gallery. You and I have talked previously about his bad PR over the years. I don't think people are following his legal case so closely. Isn't the damage to his reputation already done, even if this charge gets thrown out tomorrow?
I mean, even if he, by some chance, is found guilty or admits to having more than one drink, he previously told the arresting police officer he had one cocktail. I think a lot of his fans won't care. They continue to justify his behavior. We're all human. Everybody makes mistakes, which is why, I still, once again, am confused as to why they haven't attempted to make a deal yet or haven't done so yet.
Yeah, that might happen. I think even though it's a misdemeanor charge, the seriousness of this can't be taken away. You are talking about jeopardizing people's lives, or allegedly jeopardizing people's lives. Okay, I want to move on to Diddy. So Keefe D named Diddy 77 times in court documents related to Tupac's murder. But let's clarify this. This isn't the first time he's implicated Diddy, right? This has been a claim for a while?
Correct. And I have some exclusive information for NewsNation.
Okay.
Earlier today, a representative for Diddy reached out to me, and he is working with, 3 different law firms trying to intimidate me because I spoke about this on my website, and they were not pleased by that. Off the record, they told me, oops, sorry, I'm not naming any names. Somebody that is a representative for Diddy, I won't say who, just adamantly is denying and has reminded me that Diddy has previously denied this and that these new allegations are not new whatsoever, actually, that they've been around for a very long time and according to Team Diddy, have absolutely no merit whatsoever. But the interesting thing to me is that he has 3 lawyers, 3 law firms on retainer. I don't know how much money is coming in, but I know that a lot of money is going out every single month for Diddy.
Because he's got a lot of lawsuits that he's fighting right now. And of course, there's the potential of criminal charges on the horizon. Does law enforcement, do they consider Diddy a suspect? Have they ever investigated him for this?
That's a good question. I'm not sure. The person that made the allegations is currently behind bars here in Las Vegas, where I live. And I respect our law enforcement here, but I somehow don't believe that they would be investigating Diddy for a crime that allegedly occurred in the 90s in a different city, in a different state.
Well, and let's also be clear. Let's play the other side. You also have a guy who's on trial going to be on trial for the murder of Tupac Shakur, putting the blame on a very high-profile rapper. Take it for what it is. Now, let's talk about Keefe D for a second, because he's been in the news a lot recently, and prosecutors say they have new evidence that places him at the murder scene, right?
I mean, I'm surprised that it took them decades to put him behind bars. I would like to believe that this evidence is legit and that they have enough to convict him. I'm surprised that he's still behind bars. Like they consider him to be a real threat, yet he was here in the community for decades. We'll see. The trial has not begun yet, and he is trying to get out on bail, and there is a hearing scheduled on that soon.
Yeah, I think the prosecutors are saying he is a danger to society. And look, I think what they're saying is that his wife had booked a hotel room in Las Vegas, so his idea of not being there could be a little shoddy. All right, before we end, I have to talk about Will Smith. So Will Smith dropped this new song. It's actually kind of catchy, I'm not going to lie to you. And it's got lyrics like, they tried to censor me, but then they sent for me. Can he really ever recover from the slap heard around the world?
He has already recovered. The most recent film that he released did very well. It was another Bad Boys movie. It was a box office hit. His musical career is over, though. He is just a nostalgia act. Perhaps if he would have gone in a different direction, this new song would have been received better. It was released 22 hours ago on YouTube. I looked just before going live with you. Will Smith has nearly 10 million subscribers on YouTube, and in 22 hours, the video just has a little bit more than 297,000 views. Not a lot. Personally, I just don't like the tone of it. He's trying to be somebody that he has not been. Perhaps this is who Will Smith is in 2024. But when I think of his music, I think of Men in Black. I think Welcome to Miami. I think Summertime, like lighthearted bops. This is a hard-hitting, heavy song. And it's a different direction, that's for sure.
Why do you think he did it? Because I agree with you. Look, I saw Bad Boys. I thought it was excellent. He's definitely, I don't know if he's where he was in terms of being a movie star that he was before the slap. Will he get those kind of Oscar roles? He's clearly not going back to the Oscars. I don't know if his status is quite the same. But why do you think he put out a song like this?
I think Will Smith is carrying a lot of baggage. Like many musicians, and especially a lot of fellow rappers, always viewed him musically as a bit of a joke. So he wanted to come back with something to prove and be a legit artist at 55 years old.
Well, let's see. It's still early. These things can grow. We'll see if sometimes the song catches on. We'll see. Perez Hilton, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you.
All right, coming up. An Alabama man is charged with killing his wife, 4 children, all under the age of 10 after a family birthday party. And the man is pleading not guilty by mental disease. But could his past have predicted the future? That's next. Story out of central Alabama is the type of crime that is not only hardest to wrap your head around about why this is happening or why this happened, but frankly, I'll tell you right now, it is some of the hardest stories to report. Family annihilation. A man named Brandon Kendrick, 32 years old, is charged with 5 counts of capital murder in the shooting deaths of his wife, their 6-year-old son, their 2-year-old daughter, and 2 of their children's cousins, aged 9 and 6. The family had just celebrated the 9-year-old's birthday when Kendrick allegedly got up, retrieved his 9mm handgun, and shot everybody in the head. He reportedly only stopped when he was brought down by his grandfather, the man who raised him from the age of 12, after an early childhood reportedly filled with sexual, physical, and mental abuse. Kendrick has pleaded not guilty by mental disease. And for insights on that, I want to turn now to Dr. Catherine Ramsland. She's a forensic psychologist and author of several books, including The Serial Killer's Apprentice, How Houston's Deadliest Murderer Turned a Kid into a Killing Machine. Thank you for coming on tonight, and I'm sorry this is the topic we have to talk about, but Kendrick's pleaded not guilty by mental disease. His grandfather says that the first 12 years of life, he faced sexual, physical, emotional abuse. He even said that Kendrick was diagnosed with schizophrenia at age 9. So assuming that is all true, could that trigger this alleged violence?
Well, certainly if he had a head injury. Also, if he had been abused, we really don't know much about it. But early onset schizophrenia in a child is very unusual. And if you were having mental issues and he wasn't taking his medication, and he didn't have the skills for really shouldering frustration, certainly we have the makings of somebody who could become violent. Not everybody who's abused becomes violent, but he has a lot of stuff in his background that really gives us red flags.
The fact that the report says that he shot everybody in the head, that's what the allegation is, what does that tell you, that manner of killing? That where he ended or allegedly ended up shooting everybody. Does that tell you something?
It sounds execution, but we don't actually know where in the head because one child was, I think, running away when he was shot. So I'm really not sure unless I could hear where exactly the shots were, but it does sound like an execution.
And by the way, the timing of it, they were celebrating a birthday, everyone laughing just 10 minutes before. And when I thought about it, I was saying to myself, do you think that, A, he planned it, right? This isn't a case of mental illness. This is him wanting to kill his family, everybody together. What better time? Or if you take what the defense has been putting forward, or you take what the grandfather said, could that be a trigger? Something about that birthday was a trigger that set him off?
The birthday party was at another house. His wife had taken their 2 kids to the other house, to the party where the cousins were. He had been calling her for over an hour to come back home. She had been posting on social media that she was considering leaving him. He had lost his full-time job. He was unable to take that, to keep it. She couldn't work. They had lost benefits. They were living in a garage apartment. There's a lot of strain in this marriage. He is telling her to come back. Her plan had been to stay overnight at the other house because the mother of the cousins that were killed was going to have surgery the next day. But she was persuaded to come back home. She brought her two and the cousins so that she could watch them while the other mother was having surgery. So that wasn't where the party was. But yes, they were laughing, seeming to have a good time. However, the door was broken down. I would suggest an argument ensued because their marriage was already under strain. An argument ensued. She probably locked the door. He broke it down, and that is when he shot them. So it doesn't sound planned to me. And I think that's what he's going to say, that it wasn't planned. He didn't seem to even know what he had done. I think he was enraged at something. Yeah. And certainly the fathers who kill their families tend to have a sense of ownership where you can't leave me. I'm the one who makes the decisions. Those kids belong to me. And that's part of what happens.
And you know what the saddest part about this is? No matter how this legal case winds up, we may never get the answers as to what really happened. And that's one of the tragic thing. Dr. Catherine Ramsland, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So, you know, when you go on social media, you see these picture perfect influencers every time you scroll online, right? But what kind of influence are we talking about? Because most of these accounts, yes, they're harmless enough beyond trying to sell you the latest and greatest eye cream, makeup trick, hair product. Yes, I'm guilty of that one. It's a true story. But a former influencer who once promised a lot more than perfect skin is serving prison time tonight for human trafficking and slavery. That story's next.
Damprid's new fast-acting drop-in tab attracts and traps excess moisture, eliminating musty odors.
Kat Torres. It's a name you might have heard of before. She rose from the slums of Brazil to the New York and LA party circuits, and she could make your dreams come true as well. Or so she claimed to her million-plus followers on Instagram and the 14,000 clients of her life coaching business. And if all she did was overpromise, we wouldn't really be talking about her tonight. But around 2019, Torres started recruiting young women to be her assistants. She called them her witch clan. And they weren't just running errands. No, by 2022, Torres was forcing the women to work as strippers and prostitutes. And if they didn't earn $3,000 a night, they weren't allowed back in the house. But those witches, they had families back in Brazil who feared for their lives and who reported those fears to police. Eventually, the FBI got involved, and tonight, Kat Torres is serving an 8-year prison term for human trafficking and slavery. I'm joined right now by Annie Elise, host of the true crime podcast Serialously and creator of the YouTube channel 10 to Life. Thanks so much for coming on. So here's the million-dollar question. How did a former model come to groom followers and sexually traffic them?
It's really interesting. First, thank you so much for having me. But I think it was a small progression over time. She was getting this taste for following, for influence. And once she started the coaching business, she wanted more power. She was thirsty for more. And it just kind of evolved.
How many women are we talking about here?
So far, there are 3. She's already been charged with 1. There are charges coming for 1 more. And then there is 1 who has been not named in the documents. But the 3 are the ones that brought these most recent charges.
You seem to suggest that there might be an escalation. How do we know how it escalated and how it started? And because it doesn't just happen overnight.
Of course, it definitely didn't happen overnight. She started in the influencer world in the mid-2010s. From there, she was growing in popularity. She became a sugar baby at one point. She was earning money by going to different activities, different locations with all sorts of people. From there, that's when she started her coaching business, basically packaging the dream, selling it to others, saying, if you want this lifestyle, you can have it. I will teach you how. And from there, then it became more in person. She had assistants coming to work for her. She had people joining her witch clan. And her first assistant luckily was able to get away after 3 months of working with her. But she was forced to sleep on a urine-covered couch. She wasn't given a bed. She was promised $2,000 per month, but was never paid. She luckily got out. And when these 2 other women were reported as missing, she's the one that raised the red flag and said, hey, I worked for her. I have information. There's something to be concerned about here.
By the way, is this an isolated incident? If we're trying to take what the big picture here, is there any danger from social media? Are we seeing this, anything like this, or is this just a very bizarre and tragic one-off situation, an isolated situation?
I wish that I could say it's isolated, but it's not. Unfortunately, modern day cults or groups, whatever you want to call it, they're using social media as a preying ground because they have the ability to go viral in an instant, spreading their influence, their message. And we saw it with Jeff Devine with Twin Flames. Yep. We saw it a bit in a different way with Ruby Franke. And people are now using these platforms and social media to spread their message and get more people to engage that they can buy the dream. They can be an enlightened being as well. And it's unfortunately the new take, I think, that we're going to see with social media.
100% true. You got to be careful about what you're seeing, reading, and not always believing on social media. Thank you so much, Annie Elise, for coming on. And if you want to hear more about the Kat Torres case, Annie Elise is taking a deep dive into it on her Monday, right, on her podcast, Serialously. I hope everybody checks it out. Thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. And still ahead tonight, an incredible performance in the so-called Black Swan murder trial. Or maybe it was very credible? I don't know. A jury will tell us soon enough, because today, a former ballerina took the stand in the shooting death of her husband in Florida. You will see the climactic moment yourself. That's up next.
Subscriptions.
Yeah.
It's like finding out you had 27 kids you didn't know about. Rocket Money. Yes, it was Rocket Money. You had 2 Netflix accounts. I had 2 Fubo accounts. How much money did it save you? $700. $700. I guess if you guys want to save some money, download Rocket Money. It probably will cover the drinks.
Hey, what's up? It's the People Shark here, Damon John. Now, I'm going to give you a tip. This one is about how to create the wow factor in your home. And nearly everybody that comes to my home comments about how amazing it smells. My family and I, we feel like we live in a luxurious hotel every day. I mean, think about it. It's been over 2 years, and still the first thing anyone notices when they walk through the doors of our home is how amazing it smells.
All right, let's talk about Ashleigh Banfield. Who's Ashleigh Banfield? Well, she is an ex-ballerina on trial in Florida tonight for the murder of her husband, Doug, in 2020. Now, I have to be clear about something. I say her name very carefully. It's Ashleigh Banfield, not the regular host and namesake of this program. I made that mistake, too. I didn't want you thinking that's why Ashleigh's not here tonight. She's in trouble. That's not the case. No, I'm not hosting because of that reason. Now, in her former life, Banfield was all about grace and poise, but there really was none of that today when she took the witness stand in her own defense, because she is accused of shooting her husband in cold blood. But she claims she acted in fear for her life. Now, during cross-examination, the prosecutor asked her to step down and reenact the killing. And if you might be saying, well, what does that look like? I have it for you. Take a look.
He said, "You're done." And I pulled the gun out in front of me and I said, "Stop." He got into this fighting pose and he turned sideways. And he was moving around with his arms and his hands. And he started inching forward towards me.
So he's standing there. He turns to like this and starts moving his arms around.
Not like that.
Well, show me. What was he doing?
Kind of I don't know, he got like this, and he was making fighting motions. I don't know, I'm not a fighter, I don't know.
Okay.
It was scary.
Did he have his hands in fists?
Not at that point, they were I don't know.
Was he coming at you like this?
When he lunged at me, he came very quickly.
Okay, so he lunged. Was his fist up when he lunged?
I don't remember.
So you start shooting, and he does what?
He kept coming at me.
Okay, so then you keep shooting again. And he falls down on his back?
His legs went up in the air.
Okay, where do his legs go?
In the air.
How high in the air?
I don't know.
Did they go over his head?
I don't know. It's like his feet slipped out.
Okay.
And his feet and his legs went up in the air.
And were you still shooting at the time?
I don't remember.
So what do you think? Do you believe what you just saw? Will the jury believe it? Now, here's something about taking the stand. I'm a lawyer, cover these cases all the time. 9 times out of 10, I would say, never take the stand. A defendant should never take the stand. It's so risky. Look what happens under cross-examination. It is self-defense cases like this that I say are the exception, because the jury needs to understand why you needed to use deadly force, why you felt you had no other option. And if you're going to say you're in fear for your life, this is not surprising. It might say it's surprising the way that she actually handled it, but here's what I'll tell you. This is a case where either the jury will believe, as the prosecution put forward, that all she wanted to do was have custody of their child. And there was testimony that she also wanted a member of law enforcement to arrest Doug, her husband, in court because she thought that that would help her chances of getting custody of this child. So this idea of manipulation, and that was amplified during the course of this trial so far, where they said that there was testimony that she would act one way when she was with Doug and different when she wasn't. And one of the motives put forward by the prosecution is that there was a psych evaluation that was going to come out during the course of one of these custody hearings, and she was incredibly frantic about that coming out. So she kills him just days before. That's one theory. That's put forward by the prosecution. The defense says that she is the victim, and we hear that a lot in self-defense cases, that she was the victim of abuse at the hands of Doug, that she needed to do whatever she needed to do to protect herself, to protect her child, that this was just a symptom of a much larger problem. And I will say also, and I don't care what self-defense case we're talking about, it is unpredictable, particularly, and you can't ignore this. The dynamics here, you have an older male. He is 30 years older than her. She's younger. She's more petite. That dynamic is important for a jury to consider. So no matter what the self-defense case is, I say this, fully believing it, it's unpredictable. You just don't know. So I think that's where it's really interesting to understand it. Now, on Monday, you're going to hear from a cousin of the victim who has his own ideas on how this trial is going. Also, NewsNation has a special hour-long report on the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. It's airing Saturday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. Hope everybody checks it out because it's loads of new details and reporting. Again, hope you check it out. Well, that does it for our show tonight. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for allowing me into your home. Cuomo is up next.
All right, I'm Chris Cuomo. Thank you for the company. I say we get after it, meaning the elephant in the room when discussing the plus minus of Kamala Harris. Of course, race is going to be an issue, but I submit to you, sex may be the definitive issue, meaning if women decide